Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another collection video. First of all, you can see that the background here is different. That's because, as I mentioned, I've actually moved house, so it actually went pretty well, not too stressful, but yeah, it was a few action-packed days to get everything done, and as you can see, there's a different backdrop now, so I'm setting this up as a music room. So I've got CDs in the background and some other collectibles. My record player's behind there, but you can't see it, but I'm hopefully going to add some stuff to the wall in the future, just to fill it out a bit, because I wanted to make it a music-themed room. But yeah, anyway, in other news, it looks like there's going to be another lockdown here very soon, which is necessary but incredibly boring, and it can be a bit depressing, so I thought best thing to do to take my mind off it is continue with the channel and make another video. So I thought there's no time like the present, get straight into it. So what I've got today is just continuing down my existing collection, and it's somewhat of a recap video in the sense that I am going to show some CDs that I've shown before in collection updates. So once again, I don't want to gloss over those repetitively, so I'll just show them pretty briefly, and I'll link up the previous videos if you want to see more detailed reviews of those. But having said that, there are also some CDs I've never shown before, so with those ones I'll obviously talk about them a bit more. Alright, so enough chatter, we'll just get straight into it. First of all, what I've put on in the background, classic band and album. This is DISMEMBER with Indecent and Obscene / Pieces. So you can see here, Pieces was an EP which came out before Indecent and Obscene, I think, which was a full-length album. This one I got in Australia about 20 years ago now. Like you can see, it's a combination. This is from the Pieces EP, as is this artwork, but on the inside you've got the Indecent and Obscene artwork. So no lyric sheet or anything, but yeah, just a nice collectible item. As I've mentioned, I'm a huge fan of DISMEMBER. Indecent and Obscene isn't one of my favorites actually, but there are some very good songs on it. Like some of the ones I really enjoy are Skin Father, Soul Devourer, Reborn in Blasphemy, and then also the Pieces. That was actually Pieces, the EP. That was the first death metal I ever heard in my entire life. When I was about 14 years old, we went into the shop and the guy put the CD on. So the first song I ever heard was Pieces. So I love that song. Also, I Wish You Hell, Carnal Tomb, Soon to Be Dead. Yeah, all good songs. And then this also features a bonus track, Torn Apart. But yeah, classic Swedish death metal, DISMEMBER with Indecent and Obscene / Pieces. Alright, so going down my existing collection alphabet now, I'm up to, you'll remember, where was I up to? Like when I was going through the Bs, I was up to the blood bands like Bloodbath, Blood Red Throne. So we're going to BR now. This is a band I've spoken about a lot on this channel, so again, I'm not going to talk about it in a lot of detail. This is Broken Hope with Swamped in Gore, which I have shown in a previous collection update. There's the CD. So this is the original artwork. There you go. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with this band, but Broken Hope is classic old school death metal, an American band from Chicago, I think originally. And they've been around since the early 90s, broke up for a while and then they reformed a few years ago. This is their debut album, just classic old school death metal, played in that old style, which is sort of again, riff-based. Like a lot of these modern death metal bands have lost their soul, I think, in the sense that it's all fast and blistering and blast beat ridden, but there are no good riffs in there. Whereas the old school bands like this band, and particularly this album, you can really hear those like chugging power chords and dark atmosphere, which I really like. So here's the back. I won't mention any more details about this because I've spoken about it quite a lot. You can see my previous videos on this, which I've linked up. But I've mentioned that this is one of my favorite of the Broken Hope albums. So some of my favorite tracks on this would be Swamped in Gore, Devourer of Souls, Awakened by Stench, and Gobbling the Guts. But honestly, no bad tracks. Just classic down-tuned, disturbing death metal with really heavy vocals, guttural, gurgling vocals. It's just awesome. So that's Broken Hope with Swamped in Gore. Alright. So, as you can imagine, you know about my Broken Hope collection. I've got a few of their CDs. So the next one I'm showing, this is Broken Hope with Repulsive Conception. So the album that came out before this was called Bowels of Repugnance, which I don't own on CD. I have on vinyl, and I've also spoken about that in a video, so you can go and watch that. I'll link that one up as well. But basically this was so Bowels of Repugnance was 1993, this one came out in 1995. And yeah, basically more of the same thing. Brutal old school death metal, played in that traditional way. And, you know, all of the elements of death metal are there. You know, down-tuned guitars, heavy vocals, interesting lyrics, disturbing lyrics, that kind of thing. This is one of those bands which I think really captures the old school spirit of death metal, so that's why I like them a lot. This album, you may have heard me mention actually that it's not one of my favorites in the sense that it's not as catchy as some of the others. So like Swamping Gore is full of hooks. This one is a bit stop-start, like a lot of the riffs stop and start, and it's hard to distinguish between the tracks a lot because there's not as many standout tracks. But having said that, all of the traditional elements of death metal are there, so if you just like that brutal style, you're going to enjoy it, but it's hard to distinguish between a lot of the tracks, I'll be honest. But anyway, I think I've mentioned this before, some of my favorite tracks on this. God, the writing on this is terrible, and my eyesight's not so good anymore. So Into the Necrosphere, Penis Envy, For Only the Sick. I think, yeah, there's a few others, like, but like obviously not as many standout tracks as the previous album, in my opinion, but let me know what you think about it. If you like brutal old school death metal, you will enjoy this album. Just to me, it's not one of my favorites by the band, but still a good album nevertheless. So that's Broken Hope with Repulsive Conception. Okay, next one I've also shown in a previous collection update, so again, don't need to say much about it. This is Broken Hope with Loathing. So this was the 1997 album, which came out after Repulsive Conception. Artwork is pretty cool, I do like it. This is one of my favorites as well, so Swamped in Gore and this one for sure. What's interesting about this album is that it's melodic, but it's also technical. So the band's going to really new technical heights on this album, but technical in a way where it's still catchy. So like, there are a lot more standout tracks on this album than Repulsive Conception, and all of those elements there, the down-tuned guitars, the guttural vocals. And some of the lyrical concepts on this album are very original for death metal. They're still morbid, but they're not just talking about, you know, being hacked up or thrown into a meat grinder, but real life issues like anorexia and, you know, morbid topics of a real life nature. So that's interesting. But like, yeah, just some of the riffs on this are so incredibly quirky, and some of the hooks and the melodies, it's just like an amazing album. I think it really set new standards for death metal, and again, this is one of those bands where they don't play at a million miles an hour, and they prove that you don't need to do that to make good death metal. On the contrary, I think really good death metal sometimes isn't the super fast stuff, because it loses its soul when it's super fast all the time. But some really great tracks on this album. Some of my favorites being Siamese Screams, Translucence, High on Formaldehyde, Skin is In, and Auction of the Dead. But honestly, no bad tracks again. Really, really good album, and it sort of changed the landscape of death metal at the time, 1997, where it was sort of, for a while, going out of fashion, you could say. But this band has always stuck to their guns. So great album, that's Broken Hope with Loathing. Okay. Now, finally coming to some fresh material. This is an album I've never shown before on this channel, and the reason is, this is one in my existing collection. I bought it about 5 years ago, I think, so this was the first one I ever bought by this band. This is Broken Hope with Omen of Disease, so fresh material. Now, this was the album. The band, I don't own Grotesque Blessings, but the band split up after that album. I think it was 2002. And then they were on hold for 10 years. And then they came back in 2012 with this album with a new lineup. So Jeremy Wagner was always the core member of the band as the guitarist and lyricist, but then it came back with a few other members. I think, actually, looking here, who was in it, I think Sean Glass had played with the band before. But yeah, who else came in this? So Mike on drums, Chuck Wepfer on lead guitars, and importantly as well, Damien Lesky, who I mentioned before, he's the new and current vocalist for this band. He is the lead vocalist, one of the lead vocalists and guitarists in the brutal death metal band Goregasm. So he now plays in two bands, so he became the new vocalist on this album. So this is when it was sort of like the revitalized lineup, you could say. Now, I've never spoken about this album before, but upon listening to it recently, again, it's just a fantastic album. This could be one of my favorites too. So like I said, Gore, Loathing, this would be in the top 3, definitely. Just, as I've mentioned with Mutilated and Assimilated, they just got that blend of the guitars, drums, bass, vocals down perfectly. The production is clear, you can hear every element really well, and it's just got this thick, well-blended sound, and like it's irresistible, especially like the guttural gurgle vocals from Damian Leskey. Like, I think he's one of the best vocalists in the genre, honestly speaking. And like Joe, the previous vocalist, was amazing as well, but like different styles, but you see how Damian brought something different to this band as well. Yeah, excellent musicianship. The leads are great from Chuck. Just every band member shines on this album, so it's great. Just showing you the booklet here. Nice readable lyrics for a change. And they have this interesting artwork where they're sort of portraying themselves as rotting, diseased zombies or something, but yeah, very theatrical, but cool. And so on. And yeah, as I said, the lyrics are nice and readable, which is good. It's got the back there. Okay, so what I find about this album, in comparison to some of those 90s ones, is it's a lot catchier. Just some great, really well-flowing, catchy riffs on this album. Like, it's really heavy, it's down-tuned, it's groovy, it's catchy, it's so many of those wonderful things, and I really enjoy it. So many great songs on this album. Like, some of my favorites, Ghastly is a good one, because that includes some experimentation with keyboards to give it this really dark horror atmosphere. It's like a great song, Ghastly. Also The Flesh Mechanic, like some really technical, amazing riffing on that, and brilliant lead guitar work, is a great song. Rendered into Lard is like another one, like especially with the vocal patterns done on that song, and also it's got this disturbing outro with a cannibal family having a conversation around the dinner table as they're eating human remains. Omen of Disease, the title track, is very good. And then Give Me the Bottom Half, that's harking back to that sort of dark, disturbing nature of early death metal, which I really like. Some other really catchy songs, Predacious Poltergeist and Carnage Genesis, like some of these like breakdowns where they go chin and chin 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 chin, like just the riffs, they just hook you in. It's so catchy. Also, they have a song called Blood Gullet, which is interesting because when I was a teenager, I thought, oh, death metal's surrounding the concept of death, but it would be cool if a band wrote a song about being eaten by sharks. No band had ever done it. Now this band has. So the song Blood Gullet, I think it was inspired by the film Jaws, because Jeremy Wagner's a big Jaws fan, but yeah, it's a death metal song about sharks, so cool. Also, Choked Out and Castrated, just chock-a-block full of catchy riffs, really, really good song, like great closing track. So yeah, like these 14 tracks, but it just flows into this one brilliant track. That's how I hear the album, with like a few standouts along the way. It's also got a re-recorded version of Incinerated, which is brilliant. And then you've got 2 live renditions of older songs of Grindbox and He Was Raped, which like the sound quality is really good. And you can hear all the elements perfectly, so the production's just done so well. This is a really fun, catchy album. So I would say, is it potentially my favorite, actually? So I said this is in my top 3. This could be the best one, and maybe there's that reason in the sense that it was the first one I ever heard by the band, but definitely check out Gore and Loathing as well. But anyway, really good album, I strongly recommend it. Broken Hope with Omen of Disease. Alright. Okay, coming up next, this is another one which I've mentioned in a previous collection update, so I don't need to go into it in too much detail. This is Broken Hope with Mutilated and Assimilated. So again, pretty much the same lineup. Damian Leskey still on vocals, and they got a new guitarist because Chuck left the band, so it was a guy called Mike, I think, as well, who became the lead guitarist. Anyway, yeah, so like, I think there was just one, and Diego on bass, so I think there was a couple of lineup changes, but pretty much this is more of the same thing. It's like part 2 of Omen of Disease, in my opinion, like the same brilliant blend of all the elements. So the production is really good. You can hear the guitar, the bass, the drums, the vocals, everything really clearly. It's got that heaviness, it's got that groove, it's got that disturbing, down-tuned atmosphere, which really harkens back to the old days of death metal. It's just brilliant. I think a lot of people actually said that they liked this one even more than Omen of Disease, except I see Omen of Disease and this one as sister albums because they're very similar. Hard to say. I think I might prefer Omen of Disease a little bit, but this is still this is a brilliant album, so definitely check it out. Just show you the booklet again. So again, readable lyrics, portraits of members of the band. Cool artwork. I think the concept of the title track was inspired by the horror film The Thing. I've seen a lot of horror films, but never this one, so I should really get up to speed with that. Yeah, but there you go. You've got the disc here. So again, no bad tracks on this album. Like, they just really flow well together, except as I mentioned in the collection update video, my favorites are the ones in the middle, so namely Outback Incest Clan, Malicious Meat Holes, Blast Frozen, the Necro Pants, and the Carrion Eaters. They're my favorite tracks, and perhaps my top #1 track would be Blast Frozen, just because, as I mentioned before, it captures that old essence of death metal, which I really enjoy. So, yeah, brilliant album. This also contains a bonus DVD of the band performing at Obscene Extreme Festival, which is both brilliant and entertaining. So, yeah, definitely worthwhile picking this up. I know there's a lot of fans out there who, like, always, they're sort of purists in the sense they go, oh, the early albums are the classic ones. And I've mentioned this before with regard to Anvil, but sometimes you really have to give the newer albums a chance because I think they're just amazing. And this band is a prime example of that. So definitely check this one out, and Omen of Disease. That's Broken Hope with Mutilated and Assimilated. All right. Okay. So, next, coming up to some fresh material. This is a CD I've never spoken about, and shifting gears to a slightly different genre. This is Brutal Truth with Kill Trend Suicide. So if you're not familiar with Brutal Truth, they are a grindcore band from USA, and I think, I'm not an expert on grindcore, but I think they're one of the most respected sort of leading bands in the genre. I'm not the world's biggest fan of grindcore, except when I was in my late teens and I ordered a lot of stuff from Relapse Records. They are, of course, purveyors of grindcore, have a lot of bands signed, and they used to always advertise grind bands, and I thought, actually, I should investigate this and check them out. So I decided to buy this album by the band, and I do like it, although I'm just saying I don't enjoy this kind of music as much as other genres, so to speak. Like grindcore, it's very harsh and abrasive, you know, like there's like blistering drums, it's thunderous, it's like a bulldozing assault basically, with shredding, blood-curdling screams, and just like, it's abrasive to listen to. Obviously rooted in punk music, but like blast beat ridden and more extreme, you know, as bands like Napalm Death did and that kind of thing. So it can be a tough listen, in my opinion. Like, some people, unless you're a grind fan, of course, but for me, I don't mind it, but this is just not a kind of album that I listen to every day. But having said that, it really is an impressive album because there's some really just highly competent musicianship on this. The music is executed perfectly, it's precise, it's well timed. The drumming of Rich Hoke is just inhuman. It's nuts. Like, some of these blast beats he does coupled with the crazy riffs, and then the blood-curdling screams of Kevin Sharp, who's just like just sounds possessed, like, with anger on this album. So really good. And obviously it's not blasting all the time. They do go for some grooves as well. So like, I'll just show you the booklet before I go further into it. But yeah, again, readable lyrics. And some of my, like I was saying, it's very extreme, but they also have some parts where there's some really good grooves and catchy parts, and just like interesting interludes where you just think, wow, that stands out as an amazing part. So some of my favorite tracks on this, like Blind Leading the Blind, is a great explosive starter. Pass Some Down track 2 is one of my favorites. So just with that groovy heavy riff, it's awesome. What else? Hypocrite Invasion has a really good groovy bass section in the middle of that song, and just mentioning that title, I Want to Sing the Chorus, it's really good. Everflowing Zombie features some great drum work, it's amazing. And then they also feature, actually, another standout track is a cover of a band, what's it called? just while I wait. So there's a portrayal of the band. Who is it? They say they do the cover by... Okay. Originally recorded by YDI, so that's a track called I Killed My Family. Very nice, but it's just a very standout track because it's very sort of catchy and dark and disturbing. And obviously I'm not glorifying violence, but it's just like it's theatrical, you know, so like that is a good song. And then one of my favorite tracks, the title track, Kill Train Suicide, just very punky, that song, so that's really capturing the punk essence of grindcore, and got some great guitar solos, and just, yeah, really infectious, that song, so they would be my favorites. But yeah, a great listen, something interesting and different for me. As I said, I don't listen to this every day, but if you haven't heard Brutal Truth, or you're interested to check out grindcore, this would be an interesting album to start with. What do you guys think? Do you like grindcore? What are your favorite bands or albums? Let me know. I think the other one, Sounds of the Animal Kingdom, had a really cool cover art, but I've never heard that album in much detail. But yeah, this is about it. But anyway, one worth checking out. That's Brutal Truth with Kill Train Suicide. Okay, and the last CD I'm going to talk about today, this is one I've mentioned before in Australian Metal Gems, so again, I don't need to go into it into too much detail. I apologize for my pronunciation if it's wrong. This is BUIO OMEGA with Die Dark Conquest. So BUIO OMEGA is Italian. This is a band, it's sort of somewhat of a supergroup. It consists of the members of the Italian band Mortifier, joining with the lead vocalist of the Australian/Macedonian black metal band Boltak. That guy's name is Gore on lead vocals, just to create some really interesting melodic and atmospheric black metal. It's quite theatrical. Like, I think the intro features some samples from Conan the Barbarian, and I love that stuff. Yeah, and advertising some Boltak there. But yeah, how would I describe this? It's like harsh and abrasive black metal, but at the same time it's got some really standout melodies on it and some keyboard parts, and of course Gorgoroth, the guy from Boltak, his trademark vocals. So very good and interesting album. It's just one of those underground gems. I don't think too many people own this, but if you'd like to see a more detailed review, you can check out my Australian Metal Gems video. But if you just like something different with black metal that's not run-of-the-mill, definitely check this out. Some of my favorite tracks on this would be A Black Veil Over Devastated Lands and Black Harvester of Hate, but a very enjoyable listen overall. So that's BUIO OMEGA with Die Dark Conquest. Once again, I apologize for my butchery of pronunciation. So, believe it or not, that's it for this video. I know I jumped through a lot of those quickly, but again, I just don't want to repeat myself and bore you to death, so that's why I've done that. The reason why I wanted to get through those 7 today as well is because the next video, when I'm going down my alphabet, it's several releases by one band again, so I thought I'd devote just one video to that. So that's what I'm going to do in the next video, and talk about those albums, which won't be a ranking discographies because I don't own them all, but still 6 albums in the next video. So I look forward to doing that in future. So once again, thanks for watching, and thanks for supporting this channel. I hope you continue to watch my videos. If you enjoyed this video, please leave me a thumbs up, a like. I'd really appreciate it for the support. And that's about it. So take care in the meantime, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.